This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to Live Talk with Dr. B. Today we have Travis back as our guest, and we are going to be talking about how parents, loved ones, and friends have a perspective on the opioid crisis. So, Dr. B.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. And hi, Travis. How are you? We're going to
Hello,
have
Dr.
this
B. I'm
nice,
doing well.
wonderful. We're going to have a nice three-way conversation here about how the opioids have affected the family members, because family members are very, very important in this whole thing. Without their support and their love, a lot of people don't make it because they don't have someone to support them. And we know what kind of hell you go through if you're in withdrawal, because we have been talking about it for the past 2 weeks now about how terrible it is. So let's see. How about you, Chrissy? Do you want to? She just left me. Do you want
Sorry.
to talk a little bit about, as a perspective of a parent,
Oh,
what?
absolutely. Not just a parent, but an aunt, because I have nephews, nieces that have had issues with the opioids, and so I've lost loved ones. Thank God, I still have my daughter, a few nephews, nieces, but it totally destroys the family network. Definitely. I've seen it from all perspectives, and unfortunately it can destroy relationships with everyone around them. And I have actually had to get a restraining order against my daughter to keep her to stop from stealing from me. She would come in the middle of the night, bring anybody with her, and I've worked hard for 40 years of my life, and for my daughter to come in there and do that to me, it was just totally devastating. But thank God there's help out there. I thank God every day that there is help out there. So, yeah, it's totally destroying as a family member. So, I
Is a
thank God I
horrible
don't have
thing.
the issue myself, but I've seen it all around me, and I've lost family members and friends to it, uh, from the overdoses. So, yeah.
Wow. What's it like living with someone who is going through withdrawal?
Oh, it's horrible. It's just like almost death itself, like Travis has said in the past. I mean, you can't explain it unless you've, been through it. And even when you've been through it, it's still very devastating. But to watch them go through it, sick. Oh, they are just so, so sick. And they just be laying there, and, it's just horrible to watch them go through it. Yeah.
I know I've heard my son say, I just wish I was dead. I can't
Yes.
take this anymore. I just wish I was dead. And I
Yeah.
believe you've been through that, Travis, you being on that side, wishing you were dead.
Yes, Dr. B, I have, like I've told y'all before, I really consider myself to be one of the lucky ones because, being in the grasp of opioids, it's very hard to get away from that. It takes a lot. It took a lot for me. Um, just like I mean, you of all people know, Miss, Dr. B, I mean, you stayed on me for 2 years, asking me if I wanted to be on, Subutex, if I wanted to be on Suboxone. You tried to introduce me to those things, and for a long time I wasn't hearing it. I didn't want to hear it. I said, no, I don't want that. That's not going to help me with my pain. That's not going to help me at all. I don't want that at all. I was in complete and utter denial, and it took a lot. It took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of praying to God. I mean, to be honest with you, just my personal what happened to me, and just I had to figure out what was more important in my life. Um, and then watching people around me dying and just going to jail, going to prison. I didn't want that, and I took a step back. Once I really hit rock bottom, once my wife told me I had to leave and I wasn't going to be around my kids anymore, and that really affected me badly. And I feel like that was the push start that I needed to actually go get some help, because I didn't want that. I didn't want my kids to not have a dad. I didn't want to not be with my family. I did not want to hurt them anymore. And it upsets me just thinking about some of the things that I did. But like I've told y'all before, I didn't have control. Like I did not have control over what I was doing. It got out of hand so fast. And if I would have known what the opioids would have done to me, I would have never taken them. I would have never ever got involved with that, because that wasn't who I was as a person. I lost myself and completely didn't know who I was. I looked in the mirror and I didn't know who I was. I mean, I was just someone else, and I didn't know who I was at all. Like it was like my soul left my body. I didn't know who I was. And on top of that, like at the time, at my worst, I had no feelings. I had no emotions. I had nothing. Like I was just here. I don't know what I was. I don't even know what I was, but I was just here. Like, I mean, I would do things to family members, and a lot of the times I got away with it. If I didn't have money, when it got to the end, and I knew I was going to be losing my prescriptions or something like that, and I started freaking out. I started doing some really bad things because I didn't want to be sick. I was like, man, I'm going to be sick. I can't go through this. Like, I'm not trying to go through that, like, ever. So, some of the things I got away with, and then they found out weeks later, like, hey, this is missing out of my house. What the heck is going on? And then they would call me and I would just deny it. Like, no, it wasn't me. But, then they would call my mother and be like, I know it was Travis. He was the only one that was here. And we know what he's doing. Like, we know what's going on. And so it was horrible. Like, I mean, I burnt a lot of bridges, I mean, I didn't care how many I burnt, to be honest with you, because I had one goal and one goal only, and that was to not be sick. I wasn't going to be sick. I didn't care who I hurt. And then, another thing is, when you're that bad in that situation, you lash out to people in anger, and you don't mean to. It's another thing that you really can't control. People might say, oh, he can control that or she can control that, but you really can't. Like, you really don't know what you're doing. Like, it's like your whole body is on autopilot. Your mind's on autopilot, and you have a one-track mind, and that one-track mind is to make sure that you're not sick. And then anything else is standing in your way. If anything else stands in your way, they better move out of your way, because you don't care. I mean, they're going to feel your wrath. And I mean, it's sad. I mean, it really is. And it breaks my heart for the people still going through it. And I pray for everybody. I hope that, everybody could, get on buprenorphine or Suboxone or whatever they can do. But I mean, that saved my life, getting on that, taking that chance, coming to you and saying, hey, I'm going to get on these instead and try this out for a while, because this other way is not working for me. This other road I've been taking has been leading me down a dark path, and I don't want to continue this, because I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I feel like I'm going to be dead. I mean, that was just my personal opinion. I mean, I felt like I was going to die. I could feel it. I had dreams about it. Like I remember I had a couple of dreams one time, and my kids were crying over my coffin, and I was just laying there, and I would wake up crying, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't let this happen. Like, and I had actually been to some funerals of people that I knew, and I saw their kids crying over their coffins, their families crying over their coffins. And that affected me a lot. Like, there was a lot of different things that affected me that made me want to change, because I didn't want my kids to go through that. And I think that was the biggest thing, was family love that really brought me out. And then Dr. B, your love, like, I mean, you actually cared me. Like I knew you cared about me. I trusted you. Like I went to another place before I came to you to try to get some help. But like I told Dr. Smith the other day, they made me feel very weird. I didn't feel like that was for me. And then, they were telling me that I was like mentally ill and all this other stuff. I didn't really like that too much. I don't know if it was a pride thing, but I couldn't admit that to myself. So I figured I would, come talk to you and go a different route. And I'm glad I did, because it saved my life. I mean, I really believe 100% it saved my life. I mean, I was 152 pounds before I got off the opioids. I literally was skin and bones. My wife said you could count my vertebrae on my back. She said I used to sit there and stare at you wondering if you were going to die, because I didn't eat. I didn't eat anything. I mean, I would drink protein shakes and I thought that was good enough, but I mean, literally I was lucky if I ate 1 meal a day, but I didn't want to eat. I don't know why. I don't really understand why I did that, but I just my whole mindset was, to make sure that I had my medicine so I wasn't sick, and that's all I cared about. And as long as I had that, I was fine. And it's a sad thing, but that's exactly what I was going through. I mean, my mother, my father, I wasn't even allowed at my dad's house. I mean, for a long time. It took him at least almost a year. I want to say 8 months. And then once he saw that I was really doing well and that, I had changed, I was allowed back over there. I mean, I'm his power of attorney right now. I mean, I'm his medical power of attorney. I'm his general power of attorney. I do everything for him. I pay his bills for him out of his estate. Like, I mean, that would have never have happened, years ago when I was on opioids. The trust just was not there. It just wasn't there. But I mean, I really, have to give it to my family and to definitely buprenorphine. I mean, that's one of the things that really saved me. But I appreciate everything you did for me, as well, Dr. B. I just want you to know that, because if you wouldn't have kept at me, I wouldn't have had that route to go to, because I wouldn't have known, hey, here's a person that I can go and talk to about this, that I feel comfortable with. Because a lot of it's shame as well. Like sometimes that you're at rock bottom, but you're so shameful, and you're like, who can I turn to that I can trust, that can help me out, like that can help me really get out of the situation, who's not going to judge me, who's not going to down me, who's not going to like look at me like I'm trash. There's a lot of different equations that fall into place whenever you're really trying to get out of that. And like I say, the opioids have such a big hold on people. You're lucky if you make it out, and I just consider myself one of the lucky ones. I really do. Like, I mean, it's not an easy thing to stay away from. But I promise you, if you're listening, if you can get on buprenorphine, get with your subscriber, someone that you trust, and you really focus and just stick to the buprenorphine plan. I promise you, your life will change dramatically. Like, I promise you, if you cut all the people out of your life that were using, even if it's people that you loved. I had people that I had grew up with that I loved, but once I chose to get off of the opioids, I no longer speak to those people, because those people are still doing the same thing, and a lot of them are dead. But the few that are still around that I know are still using, I don't talk to them anymore, because I know that's a trigger. And you can't have triggers in your life. You can't have people that are going to make you want to go back to that lifestyle. So I had to completely just get away from everybody. I mean, everybody. I don't care who it was. If I knew they were on opioids or had anything to do with that lifestyle, I got completely away, because I couldn't have any kind of temptations in my life at the time. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, do you remember what they used to say? And in the beginning was, make sure that you stay away from old friends and old playgrounds, because those will
Yes.
only bring you down.
Now,
And you said,
like, sorry.
no, that's okay. You said many things that referred to your friends, your family, and your loved ones, about how they were reacting to it. The support, I know your wife, the support that your wife gave you was absolutely immense. how your father felt about you and what it put him through and the trust that was gone from you. And all that is back now. And that is so wonderful. But think about, I think as I'm listening to you about the suffering that they were doing while you were going through all of this. It wasn't just you, it was the family and your friends and everybody else around you. And like that dream that you had, and actually seeing it happen with some friends of yours, seeing their children standing around their coffin. That's the true thing, and that is where people do wind up, with the DNA being poisoned and them having to try to do anything they can to stay from being sick. And that's why the DNA test is so important. I think everybody needs to sign up for that DNA test because, just like you said, your self-esteem was gone. How you felt about yourself was gone. All you felt is if you were an addict, and that was gone. All of that is gone now with the DNA test that you took. And Chrissy, I know you are suffering constantly with a loved one of yours who doesn't realize what she's doing to you and the rest of the family. And I know that is so hard, because when you love someone like Travis's wife loved him, it is so hurtful to you. You've lost everything that you have. All of your insides are out. You feel like you're at your wit's end, just
Yes.
like Travis felt like he was at his end. You feel the same thing. That's what Travis's mother and father felt. That's what Travis's wife felt. And that's what you're feeling. That's what you've described to me, that you
Yes.
can't go on any longer. I
Yes.
myself have the same situation going on. I know what when it's gone awry. I know when it's back in the life. I know when it's there. The whole person that you love is gone. They're
Yes.
not there anymore. It's just a shell. It's like a patient who has Alzheimer's. Their body is still there, but they're not there anymore. And that's the same thing. Your person who's on opioids, their body is there, but there's this monster inside there. They're not the same. You don't think of them as your son or your daughter or whatever. You think of them as something that is repulsive, that you want to get away from. And
Mhm.
that's what happens to the person or the parent or the loved one that is living with someone who is going through opioid withdrawal, opioid uh, uh, toxicity that's in their DNA. That is the life that they go through. It's not just it's just not the person who has the opioid problem. It is the entire family, the entire network, anyone who is around them, anyone who loves them. And then, you as a parent, you as a wife will accept them back, but will other people? No, because they've hurt them beyond reproach. They don't want anything to do with you. You've hurt them, and they say your true self came out, and that wasn't their true self. That was the change that their body has gone through with the opioids. That is exactly what that is. And
Mhm.
I see Travis has said it very, very clearly. He didn't care. He didn't
Mhm.
care what he said to whoever he said, just get out of my way. And he was hell bent on election to keep himself from being sick. And that's what the opioids have done when they poisoned your DNA. You lose control of your bodily functions. You cannot move, you cannot get out of bed, you're vomiting, you've got diarrhea, you're sweating, you feel like the world is coming to an end. And just like Travis said, and like my son said, I wish I was dead. I
Mhm.
can't do this anymore. I wish I was dead. And that is the bottom line is I think they say that all the time when you've lost everything. You're going to go one way or the other. You're either going to die or you're going to go on buprenorphine and have your DNA checked and go that route. Otherwise, you're lost. You are totally lost. And I mean, buprenorphine is a wonderful, wonderful medication to help with the side effects that the opioids have caused. Now, if you didn't have the opioids to begin with, you wouldn't have to have the buprenorphine because you wouldn't have that side effect. And that's the truth of the matter. You're not taking an opioid, and they're not taking an opioid. They, as God be my witness, don't look like they're having fun. I mean, you've heard Dr. Velko say, oh, that's the pleasure part of their brain. I'm sorry. Did it sound like Travis was having fun? Does it sound like your daughter's having fun? I can tell you my son was not having fun. He was not enjoying his opioid that he took. He was in hell, and it was dragging him further and further down. The more they took, the lower they got. And Travis, I believe that you said the same thing. You just kept going down, down, down.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I just kept going further down and down this rabbit hole that was never ending, and finally, um, like I said, finally when I realized that I had no way out. Like it was either go and get off of these somehow, or I'm gonna lose completely everything. I mean, I was about to lose my job. At the time, I had been at my job for like almost 11 years, the same person. And even he came to me as well, and he said, listen, I love you. You've been here a long time, but I can tell something's really bad wrong with you. I mean, you're falling asleep working, and I can't have that here. I can't have the customers, seeing you like this, and you're always on your phone, like you're searching for something, which I was. Like when I was running out of my meds, I'd be on my phone all day long trying to set up, you know, somebody to get some medicine from when I got off work so I wouldn't be sick. And so it was just, it was like a never-ending hunt just to make sure I was never sick. That's all my mind was on is not being sick. And I just want to one of the things that you said about the pleasure in it. There after about a couple of months of being on the opioids, for me personally, there wasn't any pleasure in it. It was all about not being sick like that. After a few months of me being on them, I realized like, hey, I'm I'm gonna get sick if I don't take these. Because I actually remember this when I first started taking my medication. It was a few months afterwards, and somebody made the comment to me. They were like, "Hey, you better quit taking those because if you don't, you're gonna get like, well, they used the word addicted, but they were like, your body's gonna get immune to them, accustomed to them, and then once you try to get off of them, you're not gonna feel good at all." And I was like, "Man, whatever, dude." I was like, "No, I'm not. That's not gonna happen to me. I can stop these whenever I want." And so I remember I tried to actually quit taking them one time, and it was like 12 hours maybe tops, and it was like a couple months in when I first started taking my opioid medication. I think it was maybe 10 hours, 12 hours. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But I started feeling really, really bad. I mean, real bad. My nose started running like a water faucet. My eyes were tearing up. I mean, I started getting sick. And then I realized, I was like, man, I can't even get out of my bed right now. I was like, what's going on? So I ran in there and I grabbed my medicine, and I took a couple of my medicines. I mean, my medication, and about 20 minutes later, I'm right back to normal. And I'm like, wow. I was like, and that was the moment that I realized that if I didn't keep taking these, I was going to be really, really sick. And I think that's when I realized that I have to have these. Like I cannot go without these every day. I have to have them. I have to be able to function at my job. I have to be able to function around my kids. And I was functioning everything for a long time. I mean, I was on them for a few years. I mean, but it just, like I said, it got out of control real fast, and towards the end there is just, I mean, I just lost control of everything. I mean, I lost control of everything. I started running out of money because once I ran out of my medication, I was spending so much money on the streets trying to buy these pills because, I mean, they were twice as expensive as if you were going to the pharmacy and just, getting them with your insurance or whatever, I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, the amount of money that I was spending, and I didn't even care if I paid my bills first. That was another thing that really made my wife say, hey, you got to get out of here. Like you can't be here doing this. You're affecting the kids' lives. Because I mean, at one point I was spending our bill money. I mean, and I didn't care, and I knew, I was like, this is our bill money. Like I knew it in my mind. Like I knew that, okay, we need this for bills. But then I'm like, I had something else right here, and it was like, okay, well, if I don't take this money and use it, I'm going to be sick. So I didn't even care that my bills weren't going to get paid. I was going to go get my medication and not be sick. And it was just really unbelievable. Like it was just, you really, like Miss Chrissy said, you can't explain it. It's just, it was horrible. Like just some of the things that I did was horrible. Like, I mean, I said this before, but one time and at the time I only had 2 kids at the time. My middle child was a baby, and my oldest was still around, like I want to say 4 or 5 years old or something like that. So she might be too young. I don't think she remembers everything. Thank the Lord. But I remember I didn't have any other option one day, and I couldn't, hustle up any money. I couldn't borrow any money from anybody because at that point I'd done borrowed from everybody and I never paid anybody back. So, everybody was pretty much mad at me. So, I mean, I remember I walked in my house, and my daughter was at daycare, and my wife was at work, and I'm just kind of looking around the house like, what can I, sell that they won't notice, and go and get some medication, because I still had like 5 or 6 days before I got my prescription. And, I didn't have anything, and I knew I was going to be sick. And I literally walked into my daughter's room, and I'll never forget this. It still hurts my heart to even think about it. And I went and took her TV off of her wall, and I literally took it to the pawn shop and I pawned it. And I mean, my wife went down and got that TV back when she found out about it. But I just, to this day, when I think about that, it just breaks my heart that I was willing to do that to my own child. I was like, wow, even now I'm just sitting here thinking like, wow, my poor baby, like, why would I do that? It's, to the people out there, if you're still struggling with opioid use, I just want you to know that, you're not alone. Like I've been there, and, it's not easy. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and gonna tell you that it's going to be easy. But I promise you, if you take the steps that I took and cut out all these people in your life that are really no good for you, you might love them, you might care about them, you might have been friends with them for years. But I promise you, if they're using opioids and they're not willing to try to come to this side and get on, buprenorphine or whatever and get clean, then they're no longer good for you. If you're having those thoughts right now that, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I want a better life. I want to fix my life. They don't just have to be thoughts. They can be reality. It can happen. But you really just have to make that decision within yourself, and with the right people in your life, and, with the right plan, you can make it happen. I mean, you can save your life, and then you can get better. And eventually, couple years down the road, when you're healthy enough mentally and physically, you can help other people get off of opioids. I'm to the point now in my life where I've been off of them for so long. I've actually reached out to a few people that I know that are still using, and I've said, listen, have you ever heard about Suboxone or buprenorphine? The same thing that Dr. B did to me. I not drill them, but I tell them every other day, hey, have you ever thought about taking this? Have you ever thought about taking this? It'll really change your life. Like, I really think it's a good thing for you. And that's, Dr. B, that's what you did for me. You never came off like too aggressive or downing me or drilling me, but you were just like, hey, have you ever heard about this? I really think it would be a good idea for you. I really think that it would be something that, would really change your life for the better. And I think you would appreciate it. And, I kind of tell these people the same thing. So far, I've only managed to get one person that I've reached out to actually go to a doctor and actually get on Suboxone. But so far, they've done really well. But
You saved a life. You saved a
yeah,
life.
I
That's
mean,
what you did.
yeah, he was someone that, when I first got off of opioids, we were best friends for a long time. I still love him like a brother, but at the time I had to completely cut him out of my life. Like when I made that decision to get on buprenorphine, I texted him that day when I really made that decision. I said, "Hey, look, man, I'm getting off of these. I'm going to be going on something called Suboxone or buprenorphine, and I'm not going to be in this lifestyle no more, and I want to know if you want to come with me." Like, I remember telling him that, like, the same day I made the decision. I was like, I wanted to know if you want to do this with me, because we've been best friends for so long. And his reply was, "Nah, man, I'm good." He was like, "That's not going to help me." He said the same thing that I said to you all those years ago, and I knew right then and there. And I actually told him through a text. I was like, "Listen, I love you. We're always going to be boys, but I'm going to have to not talk to you for a while because I really got to straighten out my life. Like, I can't lose my family." I told him everything. I was like, "I'm about to lose my kids. I'm about to lose my wife, my job. I slept in my car for an entire week." I was like, I'm not doing this, man. Like, I can't live like this." And I just pretty much told him, like, since I'm getting off of these now, and you're not making that choice that, I've got to go, man. Like, I love you, but I got to go. I got to have you out of my life. Everybody's going to be out of my life at this point. And, he actually hit rock bottom. He was homeless, and I reached out to him while he was homeless. He had a cell phone and everything, but, he actually did the right thing. It's been a couple of months now, and with a couple of months of him being off the opioids, his mother, who I thought would never allow him to live with her again, she's allowed him to move back in with her. And that would have never have happened, a few months ago when he was still on the streets using and stealing and getting into trouble. Now the only thing he still is going through right now is he has a couple of court dates with some things that had happened in the past that he has to take care of that. But as far as the opioids, he's managed to stay off of them, as far as I know, because I've talked to his mom just to make sure that he's not lying to me. Because sometimes when you first get off the opioids, you'll struggle. You'll be clean for a while, and then you'll kind of go back to them. You'll be clean for a while, and you'll go back to them. That happened to me like once when I first started out, but I literally used one time and then I freaked out and was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to stay focused. You know what I mean? But it happens. It does happen. But I promise you, if you're listening right now, just get with your provider, find a good support system, and get on buprenorphine, get on Suboxone, whichever one works for you. And I promise you, your life it'll be worth it again. You'll have everything back, because the guy that I'm telling you about, when he saw me and how my life is today, that's what made him want to do it, because he saw me do it. He saw how I was all those years ago and then where I'm at today. And he knows for himself that I would never be where I'm at today if it wasn't for me getting off of opioids. It just would have never happened. I'd probably dead or homeless.
I hate to bring this to an end. We're over
Oh,
our time.
sorry,
That's
Dr.
okay.
B.
But if anybody would like to talk with me regarding getting off of an opioid, taking the DNA test that will prove that it's your DNA that has been poisoned, and you get back your feeling of security and self-esteem back, and let the world know that you're not a drug addict, please call me at 704-989-1167. Thank you so very much, everybody. And I think next time we get together, we'll talk about trading one drug for another. Thank you.
All
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
right.
Dr. B.
Thank you so much for joining us today with Live Talk with Dr. B. Hill. And we will see you tomorrow, every third Monday through Thursday at 12:31. Thank you, Travis, for joining us.
Thank you, Miss
Bye-bye.
Chrissy. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.